Hey everybody, Mike Lowe here again, and we are going to be looking at the draft recap for the 2023 draft. We're going to start with the Lions here and go through our picks, and then I'll give you kind of a tour around the league, and also even show you some of the stories that I was seeing that appeared as like the positive and negative news stories and how it impacted these players. I think Madden 22 has done a lot better job than the previous Maddens, where it was always a little bit too predictable with those news stories. But let's go ahead and jump right into it here. We're going to start off looking at the Lions draft class of 2023. We're going to actually go in reverse order. So we're going to start with the 19th pick here in the 6th round, and that was Parker Washington, the receiver out of Penn State. He does not come in as a deep threat. He's a physical build, which maybe an indicator could have been he's a little bit stockier, 5'10", but still 207. And that's maybe a clue. I figured he'd be one of those two. Again, kind of a more of a strength guy, but comes in as a deep threat, 68 overall. Not too bad, certainly for kind of the end of the 6th round there, or middle of the 6th round. Just 21 years old. But again, he's not a guy that maybe is going to come in and catch the league on fire or anything like this. But I love that he's got a release. He's probably our second best release receiver already at just age 21. His speed checked in a lot better than I thought it would. And he's already got a pretty good short route of 76. So he's useful. He's a guy that we can definitely find a home for. 86 jumping and 96 agility. So there's a lot of really nice things to like here. Excellent injury rating. I mean, he's never going to get injured, 96 plus 4. So again, just a nice fit. Fights for yardage. So again, he's going to use that strength there as we look at his traits. He can aggressive catch, which is great for a guy with the release and jumping ability. He's a nice pick. I'm very happy with getting a guy like this here at pick 19 in the 6th round. Now, earlier in the 6th round, we picked up Rashad Wisdom. He is a safety out of UTSA, so Texas San Antonio. Again, another stockier guy here, 5'9", 205, 22-year-old rookie. He does come in as a scheme fit, kind of as we were expecting to see there. He's a run support, but also a hybrid guy. So he will benefit greatly from being a scheme fit from day one. He's a 67 overall. So he'll have a role, but it's probably never going to be a guy that's going to take the league by storm or start making Pro Bowls year in and year out. But he's a guy who can develop as a depth player for sure. 89 speed, 89 acceleration, pretty decent. His coverage skills, again, lacking for sure, but as a strong safety run stopper, that's not really his game. Very, very healthy player, 96 injury rating. And again, toughness 83. So he's a guy who can kind of fly around the field a little bit. Doesn't really have, or he does have some traits. So he can strip the ball. That's very, very useful, of course, especially for a guy who's going to be stuffing the run and kind of getting in on those tackles. So right now he's going to be a depth guy. It's not really going to be anything really more than that here, and perhaps never will be. But for a 6th round pick, it's kind of what you expect. Dylan Doyle is the middle linebacker out of Baylor. He's the guy that we actually thought about getting the round earlier in the 4th round when we were deciding between him and Blackshear. But we end up getting him a round later, which I was excited about. But truthfully, he doesn't come in quite what I was hoping. He is the pass coverage archetype, which we knew about ahead of time. He's also almost a scheme fit here. So again, we'll have to see. I don't know. He's probably only going to be a guy that we throw on the practice squad here. I don't really see him making the 53-man roster his first year. Usually guys who are rated below 65, I mean, they're just not really going to ever amount to much. There's just not enough time when they just have that normal dev. He's already 23. There's just not really a whole lot here to be excited about. Again, we can let him develop in the practice squad and kind of see how it goes. But 87 speed, I mean, he's our fastest middle linebacker at this point to go along with 88 acceleration. His coverage skills are not bad, 64 and 63 respectively. But again, not great. It's just really nothing. Again, this is why you don't try to build a game plan or strategize around building a defense around a 5th or 4th round pick or anything like this. I mean, they're coin flips at best. And so again, his injury rating leaves a lot to be desired. This is not a pick I'm thrilled about. I was very confident in making the pick, and I wouldn't have changed it. But just kind of seeing him now, not one of our more exciting players in this year's draft. So now we can take a look at the 4th round pick, who is the guy we picked ahead of Doyle, Travis Blackshear. And unfortunately, it's actually no better. Both of these picks were our most underwhelming picks for sure. So we kind of struck out a little bit in rounds 4 and 5. But Travis Blackshear comes in as a 63 overall zone. player, nowhere close to being a scheme fit, which is us for a slot corner. Just a 59 there. So I mean, this is a guy who I don't know, probably practice squad, probably off the team in a year. Who knows? If we look at his kind of makeup, he's got good athleticism, 93 speed and agility, 94 acceleration, but just has no real coverage skills right now. Can use press a little bit, which is why I was thinking he might have been more of a slot and not a zone. So I was quite surprised to see that. But yeah, I mean, the coverage obviously really rough. I mean, he's a guy that, really, if I allowed myself to do position changes and if the AI was smarter about position changes, he'd probably be a guy you could move and be like a decent backup safety with some zone coverage and that speed. But yeah, I mean, 48 catching, 60 awareness. There's his injury rating's not even good. He's a guy, again, he probably won't even be on the team here next year. So Travis Blackshear, he was the guy in the draft, if you remember. He had like his rating was just skyrocketing. He had like a plus like 38 or I don't know, 70 or 78 or something like that. Like he had shot up the draft boards. He had a positive draft story, but I guess the good news of this is I do like Madden kind of makes it less predictable here, where we took a chance on a guy and it just did not work out with Travis Blackshear. Now, Osiris Torrance is perhaps the pick I'm most excited about, at least as far as like predictability and things like this go. This was the guard who we took in the third round. And he was not actually the highest guy on our board, but he was the guy that just stood out to me because of his athleticism. He had that huge, elite acceleration, great speed, elite change of direction, or something like I forget. There's just a lot of really good metrics, and of course, excellent elite strength. And he comes in hidden dev trait. I thought this might have been possible. He also, I forgot to fail to mention in the previous video, he also did have a positive news story. So there was a lot of reasons why I kind of took this guy, even though he was slotted as like a third, fourth player. We took him early in the third, a bit of a stretch, but it worked out. This is a gamble that worked out really well. He's also a scheme fit from day one. He's going to be a starter from day one at 70 overall at this point, because we're going to just get him in there and moving. Will Hernandez just being a 73 at 27 or 28. We're going to get Osiris Torrance going here from day one and start working on that dev trait, which I'm assuming is star, but you never know, could be higher. But again, 95 strength. You can see the finesse blocking there, along with lead blocking. He looks like a really solid player already. Undisciplined penalty tendency. Again, not the end of the world, but he's a guy who's going to stay healthy. And yeah, just really excited about this pick. Again, getting a guy here in the third round where we did with the quality of pick that we did. Really pumped about Osiris Torrance. So that brings us to the second round. And these are the picks that I talk about, especially in a rebuild team, that you just cannot have swings and misses on. Got to find guys that can contribute, that can be productive. And we did that with our second round pick last year, getting Trent McDuffie. He was a star dev corner. He's already our corner two. He allowed us to let Amani Awarie walk in free agency. We did offer him an extension, but it was nothing that he wanted, and I didn't want to pay what he was looking for. So really did a good job. This year, not as much. Brandon Joseph was one of the picks I think we took a long time kind of debating over of what to do, I believe. Anyway, I know we talked a lot about him. He comes in as normal dev. He's a 74 hybrid, so he's a scheme fit. That's nice. Just 22. But I don't know. He's a guy I still think can develop, and he can certainly be a starter. But I don't think he'll be starting for us this year. We will develop him a little bit here in the background. We'll see how things look for next year. But he's not a guy that will probably see the field a ton as a rookie. And that's realistic. There's plenty of second rounders. I mean, the Lions did this in real life this year with Levi Wanzarike and Lee McNeil. I mean, those guys started playing more down the stretch, but injuries and whatnot and everything else, just those guys just weren't ready. And so, and that's okay. There's first rounders that happens too, developmental guys and things like that. So Brandon Joseph comes in a little underwhelming with 87 speed, but pretty good coverage guy. Can play man, which is more useful than you realize with a free safety. Can match up on tight ends, can match up on running back, can match up on slot receivers even in man coverage. So that's useful. Again, he's not a bad player. Injury rating, again, has me a little worried there. That's pretty low for a guy who's going to be in on a lot of tackles. So it's not a great pick, but second round normal versus a hidden dev trade, it's below 50% success rate, I would say. And so it's not a huge shock or anything. It's not like a disastrous pick, but again, one that, in hindsight, geez, you kind of wish you did some other things. And you'll definitely see some players around there when we get into the rest of the league that you'll really be wishing I probably did some different things. But anyway, Brandon Joseph was the pick in the second round. Now, the pick that I might be the happiest about, especially after kind of letting things simmer, is BJ Ojulari, the linebacker that we took out of LSU. He was the 12th overall pick. So this is who we took with the Rams first round pick. This is the last pick of the Matthew Stafford trade. And he was the top on our board. I almost talked myself out of it. By taking that safety, who we just looked at there. So definitely glad we didn't do this, because now that I've kind of started to mess with the depth chart a little bit, BJ Ojulari is going to fit in really, really well. And I'll show you that kind of depth here in a second of what he's allowing us to do with some of his flexibility. But he's 6'3", 249, not a scheme fit just yet, but a 74 overall speed rusher, power rusher guy who can definitely use him in a few different places here. And of course, he has a hidden depth trait. So super excited about that. Pretty decent speed, decent hit power. He's across the board. He can do a lot of different things. He's not going to be a coverage guy at all, but that's okay. That's not what we brought him in here for. He's a guy that's going to be rushing off the edge, whether it's via speed, whether it's via power rushing. He'll be kind of rushing down there, putting pressure on the quarterback, stuffing runs to the right side, things like that. So really a perfect player, perfect fit for this defense. Healthy guy, has nice. He's a pass rush style guy, which is what we expected. He's got a nice bull rush, and just really, really happy with BJ Ojulari. So let's take a look, though, specifically at how he'll fit into the defense, because I think that's where we can really start to see his value. So this is a bit of a work in progress here, but just kind of looking at how the defensive depth chart looks here after the draft. Having Ojulari come in and play at 249, we can let him play kind of his natural position here at left outside linebacker. As I mentioned, he's almost a scheme fit. He's 1 point away from being a power rush slash speed rush kind of split. And so he will be a really nice fit there. And what it's allowed us to do is move O'Shawn Mathis, last year's fifth round draft pick, who got a depth trait bump, which I've now turned off, but he was the one guy that it happened to. He's now up to a star, but it lets him play his technically more natural position, even though it's not really he's not really a great fit for a 3-4 defense. But looking around the league, there's plenty of teams that do this, where you're able to kind of bring guys like this who are a little maybe undersized, but at his height and whatnot, he's more built as a defensive end. And so this is fine. It's even better looking when we take a look and see how it kind of looks when we look at the specialist lineup. Because now, of course, we're going to have Daron Payne in the middle here applying pressure. We're going to have Mathis stay on the left side. And on that right side, we can actually bring BJ Ojulari in as a defensive lineman. And so it's an undersized defensive end, but on certain pass runs or, kind of very, very high probability pass down plays, this is looking pretty good. And again, this is day one with these guys. These ratings are going to go up, and they're going to go up pretty quickly. And we're going to go from having a pretty mediocre at best pass rush on third down to really getting after a lot of these young quarterbacks in our division. So really how things look now in the Central, or I should say the NFC North, the old NFC Central, is we have a lot of young quarterbacks, right? And we're going to see some more of this here in a little bit. But right now, the best quarterback in the division is Justin Fields by far and away. He's had a dev upgrade, I think, just by winning awards. He is now an X factor in my franchise. So, he's a monster. He's going to be the biggest problem we have. The Packers, we know, have not re-signed Aaron Rodgers. He's still sitting there. They kind of have a two-headed monster here in Jordan Love, who I believe has star dev. And they have Malik Willis, who's barely played, also star dev, and they're going to probably go with Malik Willis here. But again, young quarterbacks we can get after. Pressure is going to impact these guys a great deal. And the Vikings, very similarly, drafted Max Johnson in the middle, I think, of the first round. And again, he'll be a guy, star dev, or at least we think. I don't actually know what his dev is, but hidden dev. And he's a guy that will come in and, again, be a rookie. probably struggle a little bit. So having that pressure, it's going to be really twofold. We've improved our pass rush, but we also are going against much weaker competition this year. So the rebuild with the Lions could be coming a little bit quicker. I'm not expecting them maybe to make a playoff run this year, but I mean, maybe. I think we're going to be in the ballpark. I think we'll be playing meaningful games towards the end of the season at least. So that's kind of the goal. But again, you can see how BJ Ojulari fits into the defense, and I'm really, really happy with that pick. It turned out even better than I was hoping. And that takes us, of course, to the number 2 overall pick, the guy that I had pegged from day one as who I wanted to get out of this draft, and that's Bryce Young, the quarterback, and Heisman Trophy winner out of Alabama. He, of course, won it in real life. Defensive back actually won the Heisman according to the game here in this particular season. Anyway, Bryce Young comes in, hidden dev trait, no big surprise. He's already a scheme fit. Even though we identified him as a field general, he is also strong arm 75 overall. So just thrilled. That was like a little bonus there that he's already fitting. Throw power 94. His medium accuracy checks out. His short accuracy checks out. Deep accuracy is not great, but it's not bad. It's totally serviceable. This guy's good open. We're going to hit him. Play action looks pretty good. Under pressure, he just looks good. His traits, I'm really happy. Average sense of pressure, conservative forcing passes, those matter. As far as like QB accuracy, if you've had like those passes where it's like, what the hell, that went straight to the defender. Well, you probably had pressure on you, and it comes from those traits. So throws a tight spiral. Predictable player. I don't know if that impacts certain things like just kind of hot and cold games, that kind of thing. You can kind of feel that sometimes with players. I don't know if that's a real thing or not, but it does kind of seem that way. So I love that he's going to be a consistent guy for us. He's also very athletic. A lot of those scores there in the low to mid 80s already. Those will continue to improve. He's going to stay healthy. So, boy, Bryce Young is the future here with this Lions team. Super excited to have him. And overall, just I think this was an even better draft class than last year, especially towards the top. We had some just really, really great picks in the first round, the third round, second round. Again, not great, but over the last 2 years, I mean, we've had consistency in those rounds across the board if you kind of take the averages of those 2 drafts. So a real quick look at the offense. You can see, again, Bryce Young's going to start really from day one, it's looking like. Got some really nice depth at running back, which is a really great compliment to a rookie quarterback. So we're going to try and run the ball, and we're going to run it behind a really up-and-coming offensive line. Just thrilled with this. Of course, another very, very friendly compliment to a rookie quarterback to have a consistent tight end, which we have. And as far as receivers, again, we just got some bodies, right? And it's not in a bad way. We just got a lot of guys who can step in and make plays. So Demarcus Robinson, Zach Pascal, if we end up keeping him around. Chris Olave's got the speed and short route running. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's really had a nice development in the offseason. He's up to a 77. We still have Quintez Cephas and Shakir. And so, we have some guys, or we don't even see the rookie that we picked in the 6th round. So we have some depth here. Again, we don't have like a perennial Pro Bowler here on the outside or anything like that, but we have some guys who can help. Maybe that's a spot we look to upgrade either in late free agency and certainly next year in the draft and so on. But yeah, really happy with where their team's going. And I really think this is a team that's going to flirt with being around 500 potentially, and a team that's going to be at least playing meaningful games late into the season. I'm not going to say they're a playoff contender, but the division could be bad. Like they could be one of those teams that wins the division at 9-8. Or 8-9 or whatever. It could be a division like that, minus, we'll see how the Bears do. They got a pretty decent team. So speaking of those other teams, let's take a look around at the rest of the league and see how their draft picks went. Let's take a look the same way. We're going to kind of go reverse order here of the rounds. We can start in round 6. There wasn't a ton in round 7. All I'll say about round 7 is there was a lot of depth in this draft. If I just sort by overall grade, I mean, you're seeing some guys in the 70s, high 60s still getting picked. So, really, really deep draft this time around. But if we sort by pick here in the 6th, we missed out on Jelani Woods, and I guess it worked out. He ended up not being really what I thought. I was hoping he'd be a blocking tight end. Kind of saved us from making a pretty bad pick there. It wouldn't really have been a fit. We are still really short at tight end, but anyway, there's Jelani Woods, the guy that we really liked here. One pick away from falling to us as we looked at him even in the 5th round. But one pick away from falling to us in the 6th round there, but did not come in as a blocking tight end like I thought he would. The other guys we were looking at, a couple receivers, Slade Bolden comes in at a 70 overall for the Colts, normal dev. But again, pretty speedy guy. Uh, can work on his route running a little bit, but again, overall, good kick returner. So a nice pick for them in the 6th round. Cameron Peoples, we were looking at as a potential power back. He would be a power back. We knew his speed wouldn't be great, but it's a lot better than I thought it would be. 90 is not bad for a power back. So again, a guy we looked at there could have been a nice fit for us, but just a 65 overall, 66 I should say. So again, not really missing out on anything. The player that maybe we missed out on may have been Jaden Reed, who a lot of you probably really liked if you watched the previous video, because this is the guy who is the fastest receiver in the draft. He had he's already a deep threat 71 overall. 98 speed with decent release already, aggressive catch. Not a great route runner just yet, but gosh, what a fun player this guy could have been. Maybe not the healthiest guy out there right now, but I mean, this is a really nice pick for the Giants. I'm really curious to see how Jaden Reed develops here and if he gets some playing time as a rookie. So I think that was it really for the 6th round. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we missed here in the 5th. Actually, there really wasn't much we missed in the 5th at all. So let's just take a look at the 4th. And there's really only one guy that I'll draw some attention to. And that's Key Lawrence. He was the guy we were looking at, the safety out of Oklahoma. He comes in at a 69 overall. Would not have been a scheme fit right off the bat for us. But again, decent player. But nothing that I need to lose sleep over losing or anything. So again, just kind of comes in as a developmental safety. But considering we got a guy pretty similar in the late 6th round, I think I'm fine missing out on Key Lawrence here. So on to round 3, where there were 4 guys I'll call out here. This is, of course, the round we got Osiris Torrance in. But the other player we're looking at, Malachi Moore, comes in 71 overall, normal dev safety for the Bills. Again, not a bad player, but certainly am happy passing on him. Pretty quick guy, but not great athleticism, just pretty fast. Not great at coverage. So again, just a guy. Certainly glad we went the direction of Osiris Torrance. Again, just kind of overpicked a little bit, picking him potentially even a round early, whereas Malachi Moore was a 2/3 guy. Torrance was a 3/4. So we, again, gamble paid off there. The other names here I want to show you. One of them is another lineman, actually. This is a guy who had a positive news story, something about like he lifted a car off of somebody or something like that. But not bad. Comes in as a 65 normal, but again, not great. If you remember, he was another guy we were considering, even waiting on because we saw 2 guards there. But I didn't like this guy because the metrics were different, right? He had he had pretty good strength. I think he had like excellent or whatever the one below elite is for strength, but the other measurements just weren't as good. He was not as athletic of a guy, and you kind of see that in the finesse blocking. And so anyway, really, really glad that we went with the guard we went with. Brennan Armstrong comes in with a hidden dev for the Browns with just a 64 overall. So that was a noteworthy pick that round. And then the last guy is Jamar Gibbs, running back out of Georgia Tech, 75 overall, elusive back, and a hidden dev trait for the Bears. So again, the Bears are definitely a team that's putting it together pretty well here. But those were the big standouts from round 3. Round 2 is where it really starts to pick up a lot of steam. Probably not a huge surprise, but there's at least 10 guys here or so that we can take a look at that are really interesting. Antonio Johnson was kind of, we even considered this guy at pick 12 in the 1st round. He was kind of like option C. So I didn't give it serious thought, but he comes in a pretty decent player for the Jaguars here, the 1st pick in the 2nd round. Hidden dev trait, 74 overall. He's a run support guy with 88 speed, can cover a little bit. So I think he'll be a good player. I wouldn't be surprised if he could be even higher than, say, star dev. Really, really nice pick there. We, of course, then picked Brandon Joseph after that, which was the kind of the option B, what we were looking at. So we still would have taken Joseph over Johnson. That's how I had them. So again, it's not a colossal fail, but when you see some of the guys around Joseph, you're going to want to cry, especially Jordan Addison here. Hidden dev trait receiver, 76 overall out of Pitt, already a deep threat. and 96 speed, decent release. But again, just a guy that, boy, he would have been nice, right? Injury rating of 78, though, so I guess I can't worry too much about that. That is really, really bad. That's not going to really hold up all that well. Next interesting guy, quarterback out of Clemson, DJ Uiagalelei. By the way, if you're ever curious how to pronounce some of these crazy names, I certainly don't pronounce them perfectly each time, and you certainly also have to know kind of some of the pronunciation stuff of like, UIA makes the we sound or whatever. But a friend of mine who born and raised in Hawaii always told me that the easiest way with some of these Polynesian names is you just pronounce every vowel, right? So Uiagalelei, right? So if you kind of just break it down slowly. Anyway, so DJ Uiagalelei is a nice pick by the Bills. Arguably, they don't need a quarterback. Oh, he doesn't. I thought he did have a hidden dev trait. I guess not. But 66 strong arm. I'm not really sure why they picked him in the second round. Maybe just best available player. This stuff happens, though. Again, I always come back to the old story of the Washington football team drafting RG3, number one overall, I think, and then the fourth round taking Kirk Cousins. And so that was an exact same draft. And so anyway, if they take Uiagalelei here in the second round, I thought that was an interesting pick. The other Miles Murphy turns out to be another pretty darn good player. He would have been a pretty decent fit for us potentially. I really like his size and a 3-4 defense. But Miles Murphy from North Carolina, not Clemson, comes in as a hidden dev trait for the Raiders. I thought that was a nice pick. Remember we were looking at Derek Hall, and I said he would have a good overall, but probably regular dev. He does have regular dev, but not really so much a high overall. Again, not a bad player, but I'm certainly much happier with the linebacker we took at pick 12. I'm glad he was not even really in the consideration there. Feel pretty lucky about that. Let's see some other names. Ojabo, just because I know he's a big name in the real life draft here, comes in a little underwhelming for the 49ers. Raheem Jarrett was a receiver that we were looking at, and had he fallen into the next round, I probably would have taken. 6 foot, 200 pounds, really nice speed. Just he looks good. Looks overall really, really good. Healthy player for the most part. Yeah, nice pick by the Texans, who are slowly piecing things back together. Zach Evans comes in with a hidden dev trait. Again, this team's loaded at running back now, so it'd be arguably maybe they're just going best available player. And as much as you might say, why the hell are they picking a running back? They got Najee Harris. Why are they picking him in the second round? Well, I don't know. He might have been by far the best available player left, so it's hard to knock him for it. Jordan Whittington had a negative dev story, something about he quit on the team or something crazy. So maybe not a huge surprise that he comes in as normal dev. But still, it doesn't look bad. I love the 86 release for a rookie. That's unreal. That's great. So I'm surprised he's not closer to being a deep threat or physical. It's interesting that he's a route running build. But again, 90 short route with 86. I mean, he's a really interesting guy. So don't mind that pick at all. Arquan Bush is a guy we were considering, right? But turns out I'm glad we didn't get him. He's a scheme fit, but just 69 overall at 23 years old. That's not really that great for a corner. Normal dev for him. Good speed and everything, but again, there's a lot more to it than just speed when it comes to corners, even in your online leagues and whatnot. Let's see. Mims was the guy with the positive news story. I think he didn't. I thought he had a hidden dev trait too. But Mims comes in for the Washington football team out of Oklahoma, 21 years old. Again, phenomenal speed, decent release. This guy can still be super good, super good. Can easily get that guy up into like the low 80s at some point. So again, he looks to have a nice career. I think Drew Sanders has a dev trait for the Patriots. That's way too small for the Patriots to pick a linebacker, though. They're usually 250 to 260 for their linebackers there. But again, not a bad pick at all. I can't remember if he has, a hidden dev trait there for the Titans. Again, why they're picking a running back in the second round, who knows? But it's not completely inconceivable. So so anyway, that's the second round. A lot of talent there. We did not make the best pick in the second round by a long stretch. We were surrounded by much better picks there, so a little bit of a bummer there. But let's take a look at round one. All right, so really the moment you've been waiting for here, round one, and of course it's just littered with talent. Miles Murphy, first overall pick, no surprise. Hidden dev trait for the Jaguars, comes in as a 75 overall. This was kind of our backup plan if they, for some reason, were to take Bryce Young. And yeah, he would not have disappointed. Just looks really, really solid player all the way around. Would have fit really well into our defense. I love his size. He's 21. Yeah, I mean, just a fantastic pick. We saw Bryce Young. Paris Johnson's the pick after that. Left tackle, 73 hidden dev for the Broncos. CJ Stroud, maybe the bust of the draft, goes 4th overall out of Ohio State to the Eagles, who have Jalen Hurts, who threw 38 touchdowns last year. They also have Sam Corral, who they drafted previously, who I think is a star dev. I forget now. But anyway, interesting pick. And again, you could say, hey, it's just too good to pass up. We've seen teams do this. Again, the Cardinals with Josh Rosen, and then Kyler Murray the next year, going 1 overall, back-to-back years. So, but boy, to swing and miss like this is like bases loaded and striking out 3 times in a row, right? I mean, that's a strikeout. That's a pretty rough pick. And again, not that he's terrible, 95 throw power, but man, paranoid sense of sense of pressure. Yeah, boy, am I glad that we didn't maybe take him as a consolation prize if he were to fall to us or something like this. Kayshon Boutte might be the best player in the draft. Hidden dev trait, 78 overall. I said this, I can't remember if I said it on one of the streams, but I did identify him as who I thought would probably be the best player in this draft. And gosh darn it, if we had a quarterback already, I would have probably taken him. Him or Miles, or what am I saying? Not Miles. Yeah, Miles Murphy. I was thinking Miles Garrett. But yeah, Miles Murphy. But Boutte just looks sick for the Bills. So wow, yeah, look out for that. Eli Ricks had a positive news story, has a hidden dev trait. Nice pick for them. Will Anderson was the other linebacker we were looking at, and admittedly, I had him below the guy we ended up taking at pick 12. But he looks even better. He looks really, really great. Will Anderson Jr. Just 86 speed. I mean, this guy looks like a monster. So really, really good looking player there for the Dolphins. Brian Brees, I believe, had a positive news story. Comes in as a nice player for the Giants. Jalen Carter out of Georgia, hidden dev trait. I mean, these are all hidden dev traits so far, except for CJ Stroud. Jackson Smith, Nigba, I don't know how to say his last name. He comes in looking really, really good. 94 speed, 85 release. Again, really, really nice looking player here. I know he's been a real nice player for Ohio State in real life as well. Had a huge bowl game, record-setting Rose Bowl. Keely Ringo had a positive news story. Comes in as a hidden dev trait. It's just this draft's loaded. As much as the first one was a lot more kind of balanced, this draft is just loaded. We saw Ojulari, who we picked. BJ Robinson I had as the best running back, and it certainly seems to be. 79 hidden dev trait. He actually might be the highest rated player. I guess he's tied with a couple guys, right? Anderson Jr. and Boutte. But for positional value, I would still put Boutte at number 1 for sure. I think he's a normal dev. Logan Brown, so not a great pick there. Daxter, I think, was normal. Yeah, so now we're kind of getting a few misses. Pickens had a negative news story, but he comes in hidden dev and looks to be a really nice player. Again, big physical guy, looks to be pretty solid. And again, negative news story, but not always truthful, which I think is really, really cool. Brian Branch had a positive news story, and on the flip side, not great. Not a bad player, but again, 17th overall, not great. Noah Sewell, the brother of Penei Sewell, comes in hidden dev trait out of Oregon. We were looking at Bertrand a little bit. Glad we passed on him. 73 overall normal. Luckily, we didn't really have a big need there, so it wasn't a real serious look. I loved the tight end, right? Loved the tight end. I thought he would be, at the time at least, of the 12th pick, I thought he was maybe the best player left. He looks good, 75 hidden, but maybe not as good as I was thinking. But I still think it's a really nice fit for the Bears. I think this Bears team is going to be the team that is going to be a handful for me moving forward. So a lot of talent there. Alfred Collins comes in, defensive tackle for the Ravens with a hidden dev trait. The Packers grab a guard, 74 with a hidden dev trait. Tank Bigsby, running back, hidden dev trait. So this draft was loaded. Max Johnson, we saw a little bit ago, hidden dev trait for the Vikings. Nice pick for them. Trenton Simpson, hidden dev trait. This first round was just loaded. Christian Gonzalez, negative news story, but had crazy speed. Or I'm sorry, he was the guy who had positive, or what was it? He had really good, he has some kind of really high rating, but his speed was really low. And you kind of see it there, 89. I can't remember if he had a positive news story or what, but anyway, he comes in hidden dev trait for them. Joey Porter Jr., hidden dev trait. It's just loaded. Tanner Mordecai, I thought this was a fair pick. Maybe the Titans grabbing a quarterback late. But again, not great. 66 overall, normal dev. It's still serviceable, but yeah, not a guy you really want to grab in the first. And to round out the first, 68 overall center, Luke Matthews, to add to a really powerful Cowboys line, hidden dev trait. So lots of talent here, just loaded at the top of the draft. So that's it, guys. That's the 2023 draft. I want to give another shout out to the creator of the draft class. His username is Biggargamel, and you can find him. I believe he's under like sports gaming rosters on Twitter. If you just kind of look that up, it's not like the exact phonetical spelling. There's some like abbreviations in there, but sports gaming rosters on Twitter. I think that's also the name of the roster itself. So this was the 2023 class there, and again, lots of talent to be had, but still really, really challenging, really fun draft. Anyway, I've had a lot of fun with this franchise, putting it all together, kind of doing these videos for y'all. So if you have other requests, things you want to see as I go, I know some people have requested to see more gameplay. I'll be focusing on that here in this third season as the Lions hopefully finally start to rise up from the ashes a little bit. But send me your requests, send me your questions, let me know what you're seeing, both good and bad, even other games outside of just Madden. That's just kind of the season here, so we're kind of playing through it. But anyway, I am Mike Lowe. I'm on Twitter at MikeLowe47. Thanks for subscribing, everyone, and I will see you next time.